Szanowni Państwo, jest nam niezmiernie miło powitać na kolejnej prezentacji We Innovators Club. Dzisiaj mamy nieprawdopodobnie ciekawego gościa. Z nami jest Itay Talgam, wielki dyrygent, ale też świetny prezenter, świetny keynote speaker. Szczerze mówiąc, to było to trochę nasze takie marzenie moje i Pawła, żeby pojawił się u nas ktoś taki jak Itay, ktoś, kto już rozsławił się na spotkaniu TED-a. Cieszymy się, że jesteście z nami po raz kolejny, cieszymy się, że możemy witać świetnych gości. Mamy jeszcze kilka niespodzianek. Niespodzianką jest również Jego Ekscelencja ambasador Izraela w Polsce. Jest także z nami Monika Rozalska, z którą mieliśmy okazję się poznać przy projekcie, który niestety póki co nie doszedł do skutku, ale liczymy, że może nam się uda też nauczyć razem, żeby nas nauczyli izraelscy przyjaciele, jak rozwijać startupy, jak rozwijać innowacje. Jest oczywiście, tak jak za każdym razem, Klaudia, która rysuje to, co zostanie powiedziane. Pawle, teraz chwila ty i ruszamy do prezentacji. Dziękuję Państwu.
Ja tylko bardzo się cieszę, bo to jest 13. nasze spotkanie, ale bardzo szczęśliwe. Bardzo szczęśliwe dlatego, że właśnie mamy takiego gościa. Jak zaczynaliśmy ten nasz cykl, zastanawialiśmy się, kogo chcielibyśmy zaprosić do niego jako takich naszych wymarzonych gości. I wreszcie w tym naszym 13. odcinku jest Itay Talgam. Bardzo się z tego cieszymy. Mamy nadzieję, że tą radością chcemy się podzielić z Wami i że również ta prezentacja Itaya będzie i Wam się bardzo podobała. Też mamy trochę zapytań, jak dalej będzie funkcjonował nasz cykl. To też opowiemy, że do końca czerwca jeszcze będziemy spotykać się z Wami w środę i w soboty, a w wakacje troszeczkę zwolnimy tempa i już te nasze spotkania będą odbywały się w środę o 20.
Ja powiem tylko jeszcze słowo, że to będzie świetny wieczór, no to przykładem jest to, że nam się nie zaciął film. Tak, jak wiecie Państwo, do tej pory za każdym razem się zacinał prawie, dzisiaj się nie zaciął, więc startujemy. Moniko, jak to mówią po polsku, podłoga jest Twoja.
Bardzo dziękuję. Hi everyone, my name is Monika Rozalska-Lilo and I'm the CEO of Creators, and we are very honored to be hosting today's event together with Itay Talgam. Before we start the presentation and with Itay's amazing talk, I would like to welcome His Excellency, the Ambassador of Israel to Poland, Mr. Alexander Bernstein. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. First of all, it's a pleasure to participate in such an event. And you said it's the 13th time, as you probably know. In our tradition, 13 is a very lucky number. So I'm definitely sure that this would be a very successful one. The conductor, Itay Talgam, I saw his lecture on TED. So it's great. It's funny. It's a lot of, but you will feel it by yourself. I would like to say a few words generally. You know, we were speaking about leadership and leadership in innovation, leadership in startups, and so on. So first of all, you know, there is such thing as leadership also in diplomacy. I mean, I'm doing this for 37 years. I can tell you. It is very possible when you are a diplomat in a foreign country and you are actually going with the flow. I mean, okay, there are events, you participate, you are, you know, doing all the nice things, but here the leadership is very important, because this kind of leadership is actually brings the results, and that's what is expected from us, because we are those who are putting the countries closer. And when we are speaking about putting the countries closer, we speak about Poland and Israel, especially about innovation. As you probably know, we have quite a lot of things to offer. Somebody mentioned the startups, but actually you mentioned the startups. And I have to say, we are now, for example, conducting a boot camp for startups for the V4 countries. And together with our embassies of course, in Hungary, Czech Republic, and in Slovakia. So the 4 embassies, we came together and we're doing the boot camp. It's a very nice initiative that actually our embassy started. We did last week, we did a very interesting seminar on water management together with the Ministry of Agriculture of Poland and Ministry of Agriculture of Israel, with Israeli companies dealing with water. As we probably remember, there was a great risk that Poland will face some kind of water problems. I think our water management ideas are quite interesting. Again, and then we have on the 30th, for example, a seminar on e-mobility for new kinds of transportation and new inventions that we're doing in Israel. We want to show what we have. It's not that we are the know-all. I always say we will present what we know, and everybody could either adopt or adapt what we are offering and use it for the local conditions. But the main issue is that without leadership, without somebody that will say, okay guys, this is the idea, let's go and do it. So it's always somebody has to do the first step and to show the way, or to pave the way. And I'm sure that all our viewers and listeners today are interested exactly in that, to find new ways to be the leaders, to be in different fields, in innovation, in their work, in their personal life, in everything. So I think this is a very interesting opportunity. And I have to admit that before, when I knew that we will participate in this seminar and we will hear Itay Talgam, I went to see the lecture, and it was fascinating because from the point of view of a conductor of orchestra, to speak about it is really interesting. I have to say, personally, it's interesting because I have a small rock band, and now I could apply what I learned from Itay in this very small, but because all of us in the rock band are diplomats, and that's a problem sometimes. But generally saying, really, it's a great pleasure to be with you here. It's a great interest to hear what people have to say. The questions would be asked. So let's hear Itay. And again, thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. So now let's dive into the topic. Today's topic is really fascinating. First of all, I don't think I need to introduce Itay. I think we all know why we're here. Itay is an orchestral conductor turned the so-called conductor of people. In his work, he explores the creation of human harmony through cooperation. His TED Talk from 2009, that was mentioned a couple of times already, has reached over 3.5 million views worldwide. He spoke, among others, at Google's Zeitgeist, World Economic Forum at Davos, multiple Fortune 500 companies, universities, NGOs, you name it. And he's also an author of the Ignorant Maestro that was published by the Penguin in 2015. Today we have the honor to hear his talk about leadership called Conducting Mayhem, Some Leadership Options. So Itay, thank you so much for joining. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me well? It's such a strange feeling to be sitting, but also nice and lovely and smiling, and yeah, I think it's all good. So my name, you know already, Itay, and you know that I'm a conductor. That is, I'm supposed to be standing in front of an orchestra and moving my hands and doing something that will hopefully bring, some good result. So, for many years I've been speaking from this perspective of conductor, and really, to be a nice metaphor. I mean, you have your people in front of you, and you're doing something, and the result is obvious. Only now we don't have any people in front of us. We have a screen. And if there's one good thing I can say about Corona, is that it brought us new perspective. I mean, we might do something with it or not, or we might delude ourselves that it may help us in some way. But I think at least it's worth a new look. And that's why I'm glad that some are familiar with my work. I thought really to concentrate about this new perspective that we didn't wish for, but we got. Maybe we just start with something. Let's start with this conductor you might know, Riccardo Muti, who is it's always good to start or with him, because people will always remember him. People remember him probably because each one of us met a Muti in his life, or maybe 5 Mutis or a dozen or more. And before I guess we should watch him together and then speak a little bit of this kind of leadership that Muti. So, quite short, but quite informative. Have you been able to watch it? Did you actually see it? I need some feedback. Did you see it? Could you see the movie? Oh, you could. Okay. And you can hear me now, which is good. Okay. So we've seen Muti, and Muti is a fine chap. I love him. So powerful, so clear in his messages. And yet, there's only one way to define his style of leadership, which is dictatorship. You look at Muti, you know what he wants you to do, you know that he knows everything, and he's not consulting with you because he knows everything. And furthermore, you look at his body language and you understand not only what you have to do, but also what will happen to you if you don't. It seems to come together as a package deal. And so what you have to do is simply obey. Now, Muti is a fine chap, full of humor, only trapped in a certain leadership style. This is not the only command and control, or should I say, the only way for a dictator to behave. I'd like to show you for a moment another completely different type, which results in, I think, the same, I would say, culture. Have a look. This one is called Richard Strauss, from a different era. Have a look at this one. Well, unlike Muti, there's nothing intimidating about the way Strauss leads the orchestra, right? But if you look at what he actually does, he's mostly looking at the score, at the music, reminding everybody that this is what we have to follow, and just making sure that nobody gets out of the already very well-defined musical interpretation. In fact, there's no place for interpretation. There's only place for execution. Maybe I should remind you the 10 Golden Rules by Richard Strauss. He said, well, the first rule was simple. He said, do not sweat. You know, when you conduct, an advice to a conductor, don't put too much energy. But he also said famously to the conductor, he said, never look at the trombones, it only encourages them. So the idea is that not only you yourself are not emotionally or otherwise engaged too much, but also the players only have to do their job. So it's a culture of, I would say, bureaucratic control where everything has to come from the written score. So the result in both cases is a very non-flexible organizational culture. And however we define a fantastic, excellent orchestral execution or performance, there's one element that becomes even more important these days than it was in the past, which is exactly that adaptability, that flexibility, that idea that we might not know where we'll play tomorrow, or how many players will be allowed on the stage, or will there be audience in the hall or at home, or for any of you in your own field. This is mostly time of things unknown, uncertain, and flexibility has to be one of the attributes of a successful organization these days. So we are actually looking for a leadership style that will enable this flexibility. And I thought we should devote most of our talk today to one conductor. His name is Carlos Kleiber. And maybe before we start discussing him, let's watch this Kleiber together. He's conducting a piece by the other Strauss. I mean, not Richard Strauss, the last conductor we've seen, but Johann Strauss. It's light music, but it's funny how this light music can display so much nuance and freedom. You know what, speaking about freedom, before we watch Kleiber, I want to show you something else. I want to show you how the dictatorships of the past are actually transforming for this digital day and age, and actually doing the same thing, only I would say with a nicer face. So for that, I want to show you a little clip that was made by the Metropolitan Orchestra from New York. It's beautiful. Just enjoy this beauty with me. Let's see if we can find this one. This will give us a nice background for our discussion of Kleiber. Have a look here.
10,000, 9,000, 8,000, 7,000, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000.
Well, too short maybe. It was beautiful, wasn't it? Just smile if it was beautiful. Yes, it's beautiful. This young, look, it's not a concert hall because you see everybody's wearing t-shirts like I do now, and everybody's playing in their own homes. And it looks so beautiful. This guy is standing there, Yannick Nézet-Séguin, is standing there and doing this, and everybody plays together. Well, it's all fantastic, except for one thing, it's a fake. Those people never played together. They were all given this tick, 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 this beat in their earphones that you're now wearing, and they performed with this. And then, in a linear way, going from there, they were doing things individually. It went to the tone master or the conductor sitting in the control room, and he or she put it all together. So again, it looks completely informal, completely enabled by technology to be so homey, and yet it's fake. It's not really together. There's no any degree of freedom once the first beat was given to each of the players. I'm sorry to ruin the party, but now I want to go back to this Kleiber that I mentioned. Now we're going 100 years back, a little less than that. And we get all the end of the century Vienna, maladies, as they say. We get the formal attire, we get the people in the orchestra, in the audience sitting very disciplined. You're not in your home, you cannot have popcorn while watching this. And there's a conductor, you can see somebody is leading it, and yet I claim that the degree of freedom they reach together is fantastic. And I want you to first watch this, and then we'll speak about how they reach this degree of flexibility and innovation, if you want. So, yeah, I'll share this Kleiber with you. Have a look. So, I hope you enjoyed this one. It's very short, but then in every second, you can see complete flexibility. And the flexibility is mostly achieved by not telling people what to do. How come? He is conducting them. But you see, Muti and Strauss were telling you what to do and when. Kleiber is, did you see those circles? Circles doesn't tell you what to do. They just inform you of the kind of a process that we are all taking part of. And you have to find your own, place within this stream of dynamic changes. Now, how would you do that? You get the idea of where we want to go. That's something he's quite clear about, where we want to go, but not exactly how we're going to do that, and what's your individual role in that. You'll have to figure it out. And then Kleiber has to help you. And I'm going to show you very short clips now of the very basic principle he, as a leader, instills into the culture of the orchestra in order to enable this fantastic flexibility. A little bit from a orchestral rehearsal. It's going to have English subtitles. It's very short. Just listen to what he asks from them. Here it comes.
Sonne 14 mit Auftakt. Die müssen erraten. Rundfunk ohne Verbindungskabel erraten, weil sie eben ein Orchester sind und nicht irgendeine zusammengewürfelte Menge auf den Dirigenten angewiesene Menschen, sondern sie haben ein Erratungsvermögen. Viele erraten.
So this idea of guessing, you have to guess. I'm not telling you, it could sound like something extremely annoying because, you know, some people are like that. They have all the script in their head and you just have to guess their mind. So not only they don't tell you, but still they insist that you do exactly what they want. Karajan is a good example that we don't speak about today, but so this is not this kind of guess, because what Kleiber does, he puts a very beautiful proposal, but the proposal cannot be executed as such. It needs to be refined by the choices made by the individual players. In other words, he is putting one layer of interpretation and they have to add another, and he has to help them to do that. In order to help them to do that, he does some more things. Look at this one. Yeah, sorry, I have to search for this. No, I see that something. Yeah, look at this one. One of his players is actually making a mistake. It's a trumpet player, and Kleiber cues him in, gives him the sign, but the guy doesn't play quite as expected, although I don't hear anything wrong with it. Just have a look. Maybe it wasn't that easy to understand, but what Kleiber does is he cues this guy in, and it's not okay. So Kleiber does this. This is not what we had in. And then he cues him again the second time with this kind of get it right. It's really very important now. And the third time he does it, and the result is not good. He does something like, wait for me after the concert. I'm going to have a word with you. So what he does is, first of all, trust the guy. But whenever the guy, you know, is out of line, he will be there to help him. You see, he puts his people on this very dynamic movement. I always use the metaphor of a roller coaster, where the process itself, the process of movement creates the inertia that should put everybody in their place. But if somebody puts their leg out, it's really very dangerous. So Kleiber says, I want you to go on the roller coaster the process with me. But if you make a mistake, I'll be there to tell you. So there's a very clear structure. And inside the borders, I expect you to innovate, to take risks. So I think that's a big demand, and also a big help that he's giving them. Speaking about trust, maybe I'll say something. You know, there's another clip I won't show you now, but in which he says they're accompanying somebody from the orchestra. Somebody's playing, and the rest of the orchestra accompanies, and he compliments them for being so soft and allowing for the soloist to be heard so well. And yet he says, "You are soft, but you're not listening to him." And if there's one thing I know how to do as a conductor, is to tell whether people are listening to each other. So think of the leader that says, "You're not listening to me," and the leader who says, "You're not listening to each other." And my job is to listen to that and make clear to you that it makes a difference. So again, he builds trust with one person, he builds trust and space for the whole group, and then comes a magical moment. And the next moment I want to show you with Kleiber, I'll tell you why I'm showing you this, because I just got an email a few days ago from a guy who's now leading the digital in NYU, New York University. And he said, look, the Quran started in 2 days' time. I had to move 14,000 courses from face-to-face to online. What do you do? And then he said, I remembered something I heard from you, from me, that is. I don't take the credit. Kleiber takes the credit because that's what he saw. And I'll say a word just before I show it to you. It's Kleiber getting with his orchestra to the most difficult part of Beethoven's 7th Symphony. It's a part where all the orchestra together is playing yam padam 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 padam. We call that unisono, together. But to play something so together, where you have such a diversity, people that play, you know, the piccolo or the oboe, it's one thing. People that play the bass, and to get them to play together, most conductors get hysterical when they get to this part. Yeah, I mean, it's just to tell everybody, just look at my baton, I'm going to conduct you, here's my baton, I'm going to conduct you, boom, 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 just look at it all the time, otherwise you won't be together with the others. What Kleiber does, you'll see for yourself, exactly the opposite. Have a look. That's all. It's annoyingly short, I know, but you can watch it. It's a beautiful recording from beginning to end. But getting to this really tense moment and just, I trust you. I trust you, and I know that everything I will do now to interfere with what you are listening and doing yourselves, it will be a ruin of the whole thing. Just to do that, and he's not just, you know, resting there. You can see the alertness. You can see that at a certain moment he puts in this to get even more intensity. So he's there 100%. But as this guy from NYU said, you know, the only thing I could do is just tell them I trust you and take a step back and help them with whatever little that they need from me. So I think that has become even more important now. And now I want to say it's not always working. It's not always working, I have to tell you. I want to show you what I found quite touching, but also funny, a video from the opera pit. When you conduct in an opera, you have a camera on you, so that people that are singing or playing backstage or don't have can watch you over the monitors. So this is from this kind of very simple camera, but you'll see what happens, and you'll see what Kleiber does. Have a look. Yeah, this is it. That's horrible, isn't it? So sometimes, sometimes you'll just have to, because it will not work all the time, but nothing works all the time. And if you want to know something, thinking about Muti and Kleiber, Muti famously said, I mean, he was asked in an interview, Maestro Muti, we know you're very exacting, perfectionist approach to music making. According to your standards, who is the best conductor in the world? And Muti said, Kleiber. Exactly the opposite of him. But even Muti knows that in the long run, Kleiber's approach brings better results. In fact, many people that are in the music, classical music business will tell you that he is the best conductor that we have in recorded history. So I hope I was not wasting your time thinking about him so much. By the way, saying the best in the world, His Excellency, the ambassador is here. So I would just say that in our culture, in Israel, we have a little cultural problem in giving compliments to people. So when you want to compliment, let's say, a doctor, a medical doctor in Israel, you would say, this guy is the #1 in the world and top 10 in Israel. So you see, it's not, there's always something that, no, but with Kleiber, but there's one more element to Kleiber that I would really want you to see, because we are speaking about the conductor, but his demands of the orchestra people are so great. I mean, it's not that Muti is not demanding, of course. You have to be 100% otherwise. Your head will, but you have to be 100% obedient. And with Kleiber, you have to be 100% thinking, finding the connection to others, creating a community, adapting and changing according to the, again, the dynamic process, which, it may surprise many people, but the fact that you have notes in front of you is nothing, because the interpretation can change dramatically from moment to moment. So you understand, it takes a lot of, he demands a lot from his people. So he also rewards them a lot. I want you to see this little clip where there's a soloist from within the orchestra and how Kleiber reacts to the solo playing, and also try to trace his kind of control, the kind of control that he exercises over things. Because his leadership does not mean that he doesn't have full control. Only his understanding of control is radically different than most other conductors and leaders. So look at this beautiful Mozart with Kleiber and Vienna. Okay. Okay. So what have we seen? We've seen conductor that looks at the soloist and says, the floor is yours. I'm not going away. You know, he doesn't say, look, I'm going to take a break, call me when you're done. He is there 100% with the soloist, the player from within the orchestra, but somehow he managed to be with him without suffocating him. And if you learn that trick, it's also very good to your, you know, life with your family members. How to be with somebody without struggling them, without diminishing them. And he does this fantastic thing of looking at him, complimenting him really from deep inside, not just giving him, you know, feedback anybody can give, but this kind of complete, you know, like your talented daughter comes back from school with a beautiful, you know, drawing that she made. You don't give her feedback. You're melting. This is Picasso, no less. And this is the way he looks at him, seriously. But then, at a certain point, when this soloist has to do something, well, I wouldn't say very difficult, but something with a lot of finesse, like just jump in the air. Then you see Kleiber's eyes, just from here, looking at, just go up there. And you know, he's looking at him. He's looking to say, how beautiful you're going to look up there. A lot of credit even before he did something. You know, I trust you. So that's the trust part. But the whole thing, I mean, why do I say a different idea of control? I always use the metaphor of water here. You see, Muti would be fantastic if you had a bottle of water and you wanted to move the water. Muti is so good at moving objects, you know, or the system set by Strauss. Now there's a system. Or the Metropolitan Opera, like you know, one of those Amazon warehouses. Everything is, you know, programmed and everything works fantastically well. Yes, this is for objects. But Kleiber says music, as we already mentioned, is a process, is a dynamic process. Now think of water as a dynamic process. River. How do you control a river? You tell the water what to do? Hardly. I mean, Moses did. You remember Moses? But that was a long time ago. Nobody tries it these days again. So you don't tell the water what to do. What you do is you change the terrain. You dig a canal. You build a dam. And that's what Kleiber does. Kleiber says, I have full control of the world into which you, my friends, pour your individual contributions. But it's not just one way, because it's a circle. I'll give you another metaphor that just came to my mind. If you take a piece of a strip of paper, let me do it here. I'll just do it with you. Look at this. You take this and you put it like this. You have a ring with two sides. One side is, let's say, the conductor, the other side is the orchestra. So if I pinch something here, you are going to suffer from the other side. But if you take this and now you do a very little change, you put it, I did one more turn. This is called a Möbius ring. A Möbius ring has only one side. You're the conductor, you're doing something, it affects the orchestra on the other side, but as you go along your side of the operation, you find yourself in the other side. So this is a ring with only one side. And that's what Kleiber does. Everything that he controls and affects them will come back to him through their thinking, their adjustment, their flexible reaction. So Kleiber makes this ring into a Möbius ring, where everything and everybody is connected over time. Okay, enough. I I don't know if you got very tired. I don't see many of you. I just see a few very nice figures, but maybe they're just being polite.
No, there is way more people. There's like I read it on chat. It was 180 people. You just don't see them, but they are there and they're listening to you.
We should have charged them $1 each, and then split it between us. Anyhow, welcome everybody. So I'm glad they're still there. So just you know, I would like to not to mention my favorite conductor, which is my greatest teacher, Leonard Bernstein. And the reason I bring Bernstein here is because I think it becomes clear as we speak that all this flexibility is only a product of a dialogue between people. Flexibility is not something that you can bring from the outside and impose on whatever organization. It has to come from within. It's emerging from what people do. And Bernstein knew that, and Bernstein sought to even take this dialogue further than the professional community, which is, let's say, a company or a bank or a school or whatever. He said, look, we are operating in the world. And obviously, as musicians, we want people that are non-musicians to come and listen to us. So how do we create a dialogue with them? And he said, the dialogue then has to be not only technical or even, even not speaking about the process of the music is not enough. The meaning of the music in the widest possible human terms has to be the basis of the dialogue. And this is what Bernstein did. Bernstein created relationships, and then he had dialogues that he could, speak to a child that came to a concert or young people's concert, or to a professional soloist on stage in the same way, eye level, everybody. That was magical. And I think if you watch this little clip of a dialogue between him and an orchestra, you'll see what I mean by Bernstein looking at musicians and seeing human beings. Muti looking at musicians, seeing instruments. Kleiber looking at musicians and he sees professionals. Lenny sees human beings. Look at this beautiful dialogue. Well, did you like it? Yeah. Again, what I love about it is the full circle of communication. It's not like just telling them what to do, is immediately reacting, and it's a conversation. So now we know that not only flexibility, adaptability is a product of a dialogue, also meaning itself is a product of a dialogue. You cannot just bring meaning and tell the people what's the meaning of it. There's no meaning until people start making meaning for themselves. And that's why you have to create a dialogue with them. So very near to the end, I'd like to kind of go back to the first video of Kleiber that we watched, this beautiful Viennese, flexibility, dancing, having all these nuances and obviously it's Viennese, it's played in Vienna for Viennese audience by the Vienna Orchestra. And you might think that it's, it's all a business of old white males in Central Europe. So if we had more time, we would have to look together at beautiful conducting by women conductors. But well, there's always next time. I'd like to finish with a beautiful dialogue between an orchestra, a conductor, and the community from Venezuela. Gustavo Dudamel is one of the greatest stars of the younger generation, really world-class, big name. And he has his orchestra, people that studied with him in what they call El Sistema, players from diverse economical, socio-economical backgrounds, many come from poverty, and they're all put together and they study, and the best of them make this symphony orchestra. Fantastic orchestra. They play here music by Bernstein, just to connect it to another, in another way. But again, look at the connection between conductor, orchestra, and mostly between all of them and their community. And this is what I wish all of us, in whatever we do, to achieve. Have a look. So, well, I'm not saying we all have to to be in exactly that kind of energy all the time. You know, we can take it down a notch or two. It's still okay. The idea is there. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. And I'd love to hear if anybody has anything to say. It'll be great to hear you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much from all of us here. It was a fascinating talk. We have a couple of questions. So with your permission, we are quite strict with the time because it's already past the time of the finish of the webinar. But there are a couple of questions that, that the listeners have posed. So starting with Jacek's question, you can also see the questions in the Q&A box. So if you open it, you can have a look.
Me?
Yes, if you want, you can also have it in front of your eyes.
Okay.
But starting with the first question, a conductor is one bar ahead of the orchestra. As a leader, how do you manage to stay one bar ahead of the team? First of all, do you agree with that? And second of all, if you do, how do you stay above the actual team?
Well, I think the conductor should, or the leader, any leader should have multiple views in terms of where you put yourself. Obviously, you have to listen to and analyze what was already done, right? That's one thing. And then you have to be in the moment, because, and then you have to be ahead of if you want to actually have an influence. But the influence is not always achieved by being ahead of people and telling them what to do. Sometimes, if you're with them and you're breathing with them, this will lead to the next moment without you dictating it. I think if you want to dictate something, and sometimes we all have to do it, you have to be really one beat, or not a full bar, but one beat ahead of the orchestra. But if you want something to emerge or to be born out of something that sometimes taking part with the process is even better.
So I'm moving on to another question that was just posed by Bartosz. Today, people say a lot about peace versus wartime CEOs. Do you see that there are references to that in conducting? The peacetime CEOs versus the wartime CEOs? The last question that was just posed.
Well, if there's anything I have to say about that, and I worked a lot with, you know, high officers in armies, and military academies, and that they all understand that in things that worked for you in peace will not work in war. But that doesn't mean that you can change everything when the war actually starts. You have to build your organization to be ready for what you call war, or what I call, uncertainty, crisis, all this, what we experience now. So if you build the capabilities into and then when you lose communication lines, and you know that people in the field cannot hear you in the headquarters, you're not panicking, because you know that those abilities are already in them.
Thank you very much. The next question by Małgorzata is about how we can take the lessons from conducting and apply them in education. If there is anything that you can share with us about educating people in the context of schools, maybe universities.
Well, I'll tell you a very short story. I wanted to speak about this with young, the most difficult age, like 12-year-olds in junior high schools, where the hormones are completely crazy and all that. So I just went there and I said, listen, guys, we are gonna bring new teachers to work in this school, but we don't know how to choose them. So we're looking for experts. We're looking for experts who can actually, people that were watching different teachers on a regular basis for about 10 years or 8 years, you know, can you think of experts? And they say, oh, it's us. We are looking at different, oh, okay. So I'll show you and then I show them, you know, several conductors, and they know immediately what they want. And they are all there and they're all listening. I'm just saying something very simple. When you understand that the student is the expert on her or his learning, you, by definition, becomes the ignorant maestro. Because if the expertise and the knowledge are now with the student, you have to say, look, I don't know. This guy may go here, this guy may go here. I'm ignorant about where he's going. But as a teacher, I know so much about how to support him. Like build the capabilities, like Kleiber builds the capabilities into the orchestra, how to listen, how to, you know, how to balance yourself in a team. All those things you can teach, so the student, he or she, can go wherever they want with your support without you knowing where they're going.
Okay, so the last question that we are going to take today is about the gold ingredient that you need in order to lead with this deep sense of dialogue and humanity to achieve a goal of the organization. What can be this gold ingredient, or maybe where do you start?
Well, first of all, I empathize with this wish for, you know, a golden something that you can whoop, and then I wish we had it. Well, I think you start by trying to maybe widen the scope of your own vision. Because we all do things that we do well. And what we do well, we keep on doing. But, you know, there are so many other things that we tried and maybe failed, but it doesn't mean that. And I think, again, not giving up what we do now in order to become something completely different, but just see if you can do what you do. If you're a great Muti, do what Muti does, but try to do something from the world of Bernstein or Kleiber. And just and then I think then you get this this vision that says, well, I don't have to know everything. I don't have to do everything. There's so many different and if you find the piece in yourself, how to listen to different voices in your own, let's say, leadership role, you will also hear better the voice of different voices in your organization. I think that's a good start. I mean, I could probably say a million more intelligent things, but that's what I started.
Thank you very much. So first of all, my apologies to everyone who asked other questions. We are way past our time, so we cannot answer all of them, but there were a lot of questions about music, a lot of questions about your style of conducting. So maybe let's
just,
yeah.
If you want to, please write to me. I mean, I'll be happy to answer questions. You know, it's Corona times. One good thing about Corona times is that we have time. We're not in a hurry to go anywhere. So, you know, just write to me an email or something, and we can have a chat.
Sounds fantastic. So first of all, thank you so much. In this session, I think we all learned so much about leadership, about the flexibility, about the freedom, about how to achieve that in the scope of a group. So it was really fascinating to hear about great leadership, about great conducting. And I think what we've all learned is that without a great leadership, even the best orchestras struggle to be heard. I believe the best summary for me as to what a great leader does is this. It's not only about the motivation. You talked about motivation, but sometimes maybe authority is there when needed, as you showed us with Kleiber. But the essence of leadership really is to have a plan in your head and invite your team to co-create this vision by making it theirs as much as it is yours. So thank you so much for this exciting talk, Itay. It was wonderful to hear you. And now back to Bartosz and to Paweł.
Monica, thank you very much for great, I would say, conducting the presentation and the keynotes of Itay. Itay, thank you very much for your time. Our attendees don't know, but you said me today that your heritages are in Poland and that your family is from Warsaw. So I understand why we feel the music from your keynote as well, because you speak inside in Polish, so we could feel it very well. It was really exciting presentation. Thank you very much, and I would like just to ask our attendees to be with us in the future presentation. I would like to ask you, Monica, and you, Itay, you could be with us too. Next meeting on Saturday, we will have Paweł. Jesteś? Are you there? Paweł, I have to unmute. Paweł is our I will say the teacher of the we Innovators Club. So he knows everything about future keynote speakers. I remember that his name is Darwin and yeah. And what is the subject? It's not easy to say, but it's something. It's something about ecology and living in the future. So once again, thank you very much. I would like to ask you to see our social medias. We have our group on Facebook, our group on LinkedIn. Then we have We Innovators Club website. I have Twitter, and of course, if anybody wants to write to Itay, Itay, could you tell us your email address?
Yeah, it's simple. Itay Talgam, ITAYTALGAM @gmail.com.
Be sure that you will have a lot of questions for our attendees. So thank you very much, and I would like to ask Claudia to show us the picture of your presentation.
Yes, I was just writing down the email, so we will check, is it really correct, or did I heard it not correctly?
From Claudia.
Yeah, and there we are. I would love to, do you see it? The green?
Yeah, beautiful.
Itay, I would love to say that, well, I thank you very much, because I was doing, I'm doing graphic recording for 7 years already, and I really miss the talks where there's a lot of metaphors, and the speaker actually uses, different way of delivering the messages. So using music, which is your whole life, was really, really amazing, and it was wonderful to both listen to the music, listen to you, and try to grab it in some one picture, which isn't usual. I mean, the graphic recording that I did isn't like usual. It doesn't look like this usually. So thank you very much. It was absolutely a pleasure. And of course, we will probably, I believe Bartosz will send it to you through, by the way, through the Gmail, which is this the correct one? Is just your name and surname and then gmail.com?
There's only one
Mistake?
Itay Talgam.
Oh, okay. So AM.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, all right. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is the correct one. And we don't have the dot. Actually, on Gmail, it doesn't really matter.
No.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Thank you for your beautiful drawings.
Thank you for your wonderful talk.
Okay, thank you, all of us, all of you. See you at the next Winnovators Club meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, and thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.